Welcome back to another episode of Building the Pride. I am your host, Drew. Not joined by my co host, Mike, today, unfortunately. He is in Florida. And I'm sure you're asking yourself, that doesn't seem like a good enough reason to miss the show, but he's got a lot of stuff he's got going on in Florida. So it's just us today. All right. So today, I want to talk about this. We got a comment. Look at this. Donkey Kong's already in the chat. Can't stop. Can't stop. Won't stop. Thanks for being here, man. So today, what I want to talk about is this, which something I've referenced several times, I think, over the last year or so, is this mathematical paper called The Loser's Curse. And what it was that this guy named Richard Thaler took the NFL draft and imagined it as a marketplace, right? And did a study to see where you could, quote unquote, find the most value. So let's talk about the idea of value. If you have the number one pick in the draft, you can select any player eligible to be drafted, right? If you have the second pick in the draft, you have the same ability minus one player, right? So which pick is more valuable? The first pick? Right, the first pick. That is the concept of value that we should apply when it comes to things like the NFL draft or most drafts per se. So back in like 1990, Jimmy Johnson, the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, has his front office come up with what comes to be known as the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart, which was all picks in the NFL draft assigned a certain point value. Okay. Now, I don't know how they assigned the point values, right? But this list has endured for 35 years as at least a jumping off point or a point of commonality amongst people who run NFL franchises as a way to say we can all agree that the 74th pick in the NFL draft is worth roughly this amount, right? Whether or not it's actually worth like the quote unquote made up point values that were assigned to it is debatable. But the thing that matters is that everybody agrees that that is the worth of the pick, right? And so now we don't have trades like the Ricky Williams trade, where Mike Ditka gives up, I think, picks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then a first and a third in a next year's draft to trade up to like number 3, I think it was, or 5, to take a running back in the draft, right? Like we would never see that now. We would the only possible way that you would see a trade like that would be like the second coming of Peyton Manning. And you'd have to know what his whole career would be before you were going to make that trade. It doesn't happen anymore because we have some kind of agreement on what the value of these picks are, 1 through 255 or whatever the number is each year. And of course, this is like the draft has changed in 30 years where like we have compensatory picks and then you couldn't trade those initially, but now you can trade those initially. And then you have like the Rooney Rule incentivization thing where, like, if you have so the Detroit Lions had Aaron Glenn, who was an African American defensive coordinator. He got a head coaching job. So because they are promoting African American coaches or minority coaches in the NFL, the Lions were awarded 2 third-round compensatory picks. Okay, great. Like, helps the Lions and it helps minority coaches get head coaching jobs. I don't see a downside to it. Now those are in the mix, right? So then the chart gets readjusted because now effectively, like, we have enough picks amongst 7 rounds that you are getting 8 rounds worth of picks jammed into 7 rounds worth of actual format. So now that we have a value assigned to these picks and an agreement on the value, Richard Thaler went out and basically said, what are the most valuable picks that you can have? And of course, I think, like, for like the average NFL fan, you would say the higher the pick, the better. And you'd be right, because it gives you more choice and you get higher access to better players. But what is interesting about this study is that he found that the most value in the NFL draft, especially under this collective bargaining agreement, and it should be said that if the Players Association and the NFL blow up the CBA and do a completely new CBA, a drastic change, this math no longer works, right? It only works in the confines of this structure. But the most valuable picks in the NFL draft are picks 25 through 40. And that just doesn't seem right. I mean, you're talking about the bottom third of the first round through the top quarter of the second round. How can that be the most valuable? How can those be the most valuable players? So, number one, it takes the idea of what does it mean to be valuable. So, in this idea, it's how much talent you're getting per dollar that you're spending on their rookie contracts. Okay. Now, all talent is a projection. We don't know how much talent they actually have or how well it's going to translate to the NFL game. So every player is a risk to some degree, right? Some might be riskier than others. He's injured, or he's switching positions, or he's got legal trouble, or he smoked drugs, or he got caught with a gun, or he's 5'9" when other players in this position are 6'1". Stuff like that. Like, all of these have to be weighed and figure out what your comfort level is with them. So why 25 through 40? Well, at the top of the draft, you have the most talented players, and you're going to spend the most valuable picks to get the most talented players. And that makes sense, right? But you're going to pay them the most out of everybody that's selected in the draft. And then as you go down in the first round, you will eventually pick all of the players who are quote unquote worthy of being gauged a first round pick, right? So every year we hear about NFL media and NFL draft experts say that there might be 11 first round quality players or 18 first round quality players in this year's draft, but there's going to be 32 picks in the first round. So how do you quantify who's actually worth a first round pick? So if those guys all go early because they're the quote unquote best, then how can the next tier or tiers of players be the most valuable? So when you look at things like positional value, age, injury history, quality of competition played against, that type of thing, and you're picking those players at, say, pick 25. So let's say you picked a defensive end from Alabama who's 21 years old with no injury history, high character, When we say Bradley, do we mean Brad Holmes? Or we we're going to talk about that in a second, Donkey Kong. I have to get through this 10-minute rant about value. So if you have this guy, defensive end, but like let's say maybe he's just quote unquote not as talented or has as high of an upside as the top edge defender in the class, you're still getting a guy with all the like green flags of being a quality NFL player, but you're paying him the 25th highest paid contract that the NFL draft allows you to pay him. And that value is locked in. Like what it's going to be before you draft him. So on a talent level, I do not have the first tier player, right? But because the money drops off so precipitously, the talent may not drop off at the same time as the money. They don't go down literally together. So I have a better chance of maximizing my talent unit per dollar spent somewhere between picks 25 and 40 than I do even at number 1, right? However, the overall amount of talent and the number 1 pick might outweigh what a lot of people would consider to be the value at pick 25, right? That happens most times. So what this led Richard Thaler to hypothesize was teams that can pick as many times between 25 and 40 are going to maximize the floor of their roster for per dollar spent, right? And then what that does, and since all teams have the same ceiling on their salary cap, and then in theory are awarded the same number of draft picks, 7, each year, that the NFL becomes a game about how effectively you manage your resources. And I feel like the Detroit Lions are at their first crossroads with their roster when it comes to how they're managing their resources. So to get to Donkey Kong's point here, all I know for sure is Bradley absolutely needs to nail this draft, and it needs to be heavy on defense. Okay, so there's a couple. Let's unpack this statement here. So the crossroads that the Detroit Lions roster is in right now is that they need to replenish at 2 of the top 3 positions of value on the roster, being tackle and edge rusher. Okay. The reason they need to restock at those positions is they basically created a situation by running Taylor Decker out of town, by asking for a pay cut that they knew he wasn't going to take, is to say now we have an additional need. So even if Taylor Decker had returned for this upcoming season, people would have said, we need an heir apparent to Taylor Decker. Okay. So this need went from something that was covered but manageable to now you absolutely are locked into this course of action, right? Okay. The issue with this year's draft class is that it's super light on left tackles. You have Monroe Freeling, who has everything you could want from like a size, weight, speed package, and like all the traits, except the only drawback is that he is young and has not played that many games at left tackle. And when it came to the combine, did not do well in like the positional drills. So he did really well when it came to like measuring all the athletic traits. But when it came to playing the position, he's a little bit behind. So like it would have been awesome if the Detroit Lions had retained Taylor Decker and drafted Monroe Freeling. Those two things line up. Cover your immediate short-term need with a returning player who knows your system, draft his replacement, have them hang out, be in the same room, soak up that knowledge, watch it in action, and then year 2, get that guy, get Freeling to start at left tackle. That's like the ideal scenario. We don't do that, right? So now there is a hole at left tackle. So according to Dan Campbell, they are quote unquote comfortable with moving Penei Sewell to left tackle. That makes a ton of sense. He played left tackle at Oregon. He's an athletic wunderkind. So it makes sense to me that they would move Penei Sewell to left tackle. Well, now the draft aligns a little bit better for the Detroit Lions because now there's a bunch of right tackles that can slide right in to the vacated position that Sewell used to play. Okay, well, everyone is hoping that Penei Sewell just makes this transition no problem. And I think that he will because I think that he's a Hall of Fame level talent. But we don't know. It's been 5 years since he played left tackle. Do I have something wrong with my... Is that just the light? Or is that like mustard or something? I don't know. I can't not see it. Gross. So, so what does it look like if Brad Holmes nails this draft, right? Well, they do not have a 3rd round pick. So I think largely what it means is that Brad Holmes comes out of the 1st and 2nd round with a starting tackle, either left or right, and some pass rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. So that is my definition of what it would mean for Brad Holmes to nail this draft class. He needs to have 2 immediate contributors out of his day 1 and day 2 picks. That's what it looks like. So the problem is, in my opinion, is that Brad has not hit on a 2 contributor draft in the last 2 years. So we have 2 years ago, he takes Terrion Arnold and Christian Mahogany, and I would argue that one of those guys might be a contributor but neither of them look like they're locks for their positions. And then last year, he takes Tyleik Williams and Tate Ratledge. And so, I would argue that one of those guys is a contributor. So when I say contributor, what I mean is a guy that looks like he's either ready to take starter level snaps the entirety of his rookie contract or be offered a second contract. Now, for both of these 2 classes, one's only had 1 year on the field and the other one's obviously had 2 years on the field. So it's very hard to gauge quite yet. But whether it's Arnold Mahogany or Ratledge Williams, I don't know that either one of them is just these guys are obviously guys that you re-sign to second contracts. Ratledge would be the guy right now that I would be he seems like he's the guy that's in line, to be on a second contract player. So if he's going to nail the class, I think that he needs to have 2, no doubt about it, contributors. So how do they get it? So let's open up a mock draft and we'll see if we can't figure this out. I really miss that Mike isn't here to do this stuff for me. Okay, choose team, Detroit Lions. Speed it up a little bit. Here we go. We're going to start the draft. So round 1 OT and edge in round 2. So we'll talk about that when we get to the Lions pick here. That's got to be the goal. So let's take a look. Oh, interesting. So on the board right now, we have Spencer Fano. That would be a good right tackle. Super athletic. Maybe he's the center of the future. Can play a bunch of different positions. Akeem Mesidor would be a player that I think has all the polish that you could want in a rookie. He's 25, but that all that means is he's on Aiden Hutchinson's timeline. So if you take Messidor, then those two guys play together for the next 4 or 5 years, and then when Hutch's extension is up, that's when Messidor's rookie contract deal would be up, and then you can just re-sign whichever one you need, probably Aiden Hutchinson, and then you let the other guy just walk into free agency, and you still have one guy, that's a good pass rusher, but they're the same age. So now we also have Caden Proctor still on the board. He is a left tackle, one of the few in the class. Caleb Lomu is a left tackle. Blake Miller is a right tackle. Max Ahanacher is a right tackle. Zion Young, maybe the best edge rusher pairing for the Detroit Lions outside of a Ruben Bain, but Ruben Bain's just never going to be on the board here. So if we look at pick 50, that's Gabe Yakus. Okay. I hope that he would be there at that pick. And then what do we have? We have Derek Moore, potential. Caleb Tiernan was I think the only guard prospect. And then we're to Danny Dennis Sutton. And then I don't know that there is anybody else at tackle or at edge. And so the problem that I see in the top 50 for the Detroit Lions is this idea that I think Donkey Kong has hit upon here, is that it's in what order do you take them? So if you go tackle edge, then I think that you have the best option of having an edge available to you at 50, although I think that none of them will be. And if you go edge and then tackle, I think that you're looking at trading back up higher up into the second round to either get the last tackle off the board, in which case I think that you probably need to trade up to near the top of the second round, because there's only going to be one guy, and it's probably Ahanacher, who's going to be available. So let's put some picks in. So I'm going to take Spencer Fano here, which would mean that we're going to play Penei Sewell at left. There goes Lomu. So I don't think a guy like Cassius Howell. There goes Zion Young already. There goes Blake Miller. There goes Malachi Lawrence. There goes Ahanacher. Okay, so in this mock, Yakus is on the board. Derek Moore is on the board. I think either one of those guys are potential fits for the Detroit Lions. Great drafting, nice work, love it. Well, the board broke pretty well for us. So, and now from this point, the Lions don't have a third round pick, and there are lots of players in this class that I think would be excellent fits for Detroit. Traden Stukes out of Arizona, Max Clare out of Ohio State. I believe that we should be looking to upgrade the secondary in a pretty significant manner. We don't know if Kirby's going to be okay. Brian has to come back from his Achilles injury. DJ Reed, I think it would be an excellent number 2 corner, but we don't have a number 1 corner because unless Terrion Arnold takes a step forward, I don't know that he's a number 1 corner either. And I think that the Lions should be looking. We can do that. Yeah, we can do that. I think the Lions should be looking pretty heavily at upgrading their secondary because the Lions had the 30th ranked time to pressure defense in the NFL, which means that we generated a lot of pressure, but we did it very slowly. And like in the modern NFL, you have to generate pressure quickly. So I'm going to hold out my evaluation of Terry Arnold until the end of this season. Like I want the legal thing to go away, and I want to see what he looks like in year 3. And if he looks like he has in year 3, if he looks like how he did in year 1 and year 2, I think that you just don't re-sign the guy. Like, right? But I feel the same way about Tyleik Williams. You know, like I feel like Tyleik Williams is going to be asked to do a lot of things that he's never had to do before. And that's a problem. But we'll see. So I just took Kaytron Allen here in the 4th round because if Jahmyr Gibbs gets hurt, the idea that Isaiah Pacheco can be a back that gets you, that can like keep the offense looking like it's supposed to look, I think is ridiculous. So I'm going to get another guy that can play the position. I'm taking Caden Curry here because I love him, which really sucks to say because he went to Ohio State. But they need to differentiate what their other DN does opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Like he can't just be this edge setting, no pass rushing chops type of player. Okay, I'm going to take Landon Robinson here. 6 foot, 287. Let's see. High energy play style and ability to generate displacement at the line of scrimmage, make him a versatile asset in various defensive schemes. That is what Detroit, I think, would want. Like, I also think that Detroit needs a nose tackle, unfortunately. Oh, I'm taking Kaczmarek here. That would be an excellent fit for Petzing's 13 personnel look. I mean, and like they're not going to run 13 personnel a lot, but like they're going to run it more than they did. Good job, Drew. That's why everyone comes here for the. Here's a new punt returner to replace Khalif Raymond. And like I understand what Brad Holmes is trying to do with like the back end of the roster. Like he has a firm idea of what he's willing to pay per position, and he doesn't want to cross that line. So like Alex Anzalone signs a deal to go to Tampa Bay, 8.5 a year AAV, right? And so like Brad didn't want to give him 7, right? And so Alex Anzalone is a solid piece of the Lions defense over the last 4 or 5 years, and Brad's like, well, we're not going to pay you this, and I get why. Okay, so here's our draft: Spencer Fano, Gabe Yakus, Sam Roush, who, if he was there in the 4th round, that's a steal. Deontay Lawson, maybe this is competition for the will linebacker spot. Kaytron Allen is probably like running back 3. Caden Curry, would be like, I think, like your Al-Qadim Muhammad, like situational pass rusher. Landon Robinson would be, I think, depth behind Aleem McNeil. Will Kazmarek, I've heard him both ways. As a addition, like he's widely regarded as one of the best blocking tight ends in this draft. If the Lions walked out of this draft with Roush and Kaczmarek at tight end, I think that they would have, even if Sam Laporta didn't come back, I think they would have the basis for maybe the best tight end room, top to bottom, in the NFL. Kevin Coleman is just a primary punt returning special teamer. Like, I think that would be, I would be fine with having a roster spot for him to do that. All right, so let's start it up again. So this time, let's try and do some of this like 25 to 40 stuff that I was talking about earlier. So like let's see what the draft looks like, and we'll so this time we have Caleb Downs falling to us at 17. So, and Dylan Tianneman's here, Keldrick Folk is here. So one of the things that I think that any team should be able to spend a first round pick on is a guy that you're virtually certain will be a all pro or multiple time Pro Bowler. And like Caleb Downs has that ability. Here's my only problem with Caleb Downs is that he thrives in a zone scheme. Matt Patricia, who Lions fans are pretty familiar with, ran a 4-2-5 nickel base at Ohio State. And so the Lions don't run nickel as much as Ohio State did. And they don't run zone pass defense as much as most of the other teams in the NFL did. So while Caleb Downs is one of the better picks in this draft, and like I think that he would probably alleviate some problems that the Lions have at safety moving forward, and I do think it's likely that they do move to a more of a nickel base this year. I don't know that Caleb Downs is a wonderful fit for what the Detroit Lions want to do. Maybe he is. I don't know. I have some reservations about it. But we have two trades. So in this one, we can trade down to 23 and upgrade our fourth round pick to a third round pick by 50 spots. Or we can drop down to 35 and pick up 3 picks and a fourth rounder in 2027. The Eagles pick seems like the better value to me. Yeah, and they traded up for Downs. That's crazy. Oh my God, Tyson Smith. All right, so here we have a lot of options. And so I'm going to do something different in this option. So let's look at our trades. So we can trade with Denver and we would pick up a 1 next year. We could trade with the Jets and pick up another second round pick. We trade down 10 spots and pick up 3 fourth round picks. Interesting. Or Tennessee would like to trade us a second, a third, and a sixth to move down 12 spots. So who do we have on the board? We could take Kenyon Sadiq, right? So like, what is the state of Sam Laporta's back? If it's, there was an NFL.com rumor. You had to take a call. That's fine. You do your thing. Kenyon Sadiq. I mean, like Sam Laporta. There was an NFL.com article that hypothesized that Sam Laporta could be involved in a trade up with the Detroit Lions as like you want Lomu? Oh, we'll see. Hang on. He could be a Sam Laporta placement if the Lions wanted to move on from Sam Laporta, which I know that sounds crazy, but like I'm now starting to believe that like Detroit cannot re-sign all of the players from their 23 class. And if you're going to rank the players on who I want around in the 23 class, it's Gibbs, Campbell, Branch, and then Laporta in that order. And they're all good. They're all good players. But like we have seen Brad Holmes move on from TJ Hawkinson, who was not his draft pick, and replace him with a guy that had the same level of production in Sam Laporta for cheaper, and the Lions picked up draft capital. It's one of the better trades that Brad Holmes has made. So here we have an idea. I think that the Lions offense is fine. I think the Lions offense is not a concern. Why do I think that? Because last year, Jared Goff was sacked more than he's ever been sacked in a single season. And the Lions had the 6th highest rated passing attack in the NFL, and they were the 5th highest scoring offense in the NFL. If you have those numbers, you're fine on offense. The problem with the Lions offense last year is that their running efficiency fell from like 8th to like 24th. Like they just stopped being efficient running the ball. Right. And so if that is all just you need better players, I mean, they had Tate Ratledge and Penei Sewell on the right side of the line to run behind. So if anybody's blaming the Lions' run game efficiency on Graham Glasgow and Taylor Decker, I don't know that we're really sure on how the Lions are running the ball. Right. So I'm going to go. Here's where I think the Detroit can make up the most difference to go from a 9-8 team back to something closer to a 15-2 team, and that is we need to restock the defense. We need impact players on defense. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. Now, Donkey Kong, you're the only guy in chat, but I don't want you to freak out. Okay, I'm going to take Emmanuel McNeill-Warren here. And the reason that I am, McNeill-Warren's knack for creating game-changing plays, highlighted by multiple forced fumbles and touchdown returns, have been a defining trait in his collegiate career. Now, if this was just 1 year of him doing this, I would be like, oh, he just had a good year this year. You can't rely on this. It's multiple years of this that he's done this. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. I think this lets you take Brian Branch when he's back and you play him at nickel. And I very, very much want Brian Branch to be our nickel cornerback. If we are moving to a nickel-based defense, I want him to be the nickel because having him around the line of scrimmage just seems like somebody that is going to create havoc, especially on like you can run blitz him, you can have him guard running backs and tight ends coming out of the backfield, you can have him blitz, you can have him he blows up screens. Like that is the kind of havoc I want around the line of scrimmage, and Brian Branch provides that. Like I want the best players on the team on defense closest to the football, right? So if you make that move and you replace Brian in the secondary with Emmanuel McNeill-Warren, and I mean the best case scenario would be Kirby Joseph comes back, and now you have a strong safety in McNeill-Warren, who is like another Peanut Tillman knocking the ball out, causing fumbles, and you have Kirby Joseph looking like anything like Kirby Joseph as one of the better center fielder safeties in the NFL. Now you have a defense that's creating positive turnover differential, hopefully quite a bit, and even if you don't have Kirby back, like Brian Branch at nickel and McNeill-Warren creating turnovers, I think gets the Lions off the field on third down. I think that you're still effective against the run, so I'm going to take this kid here. And I'm going to try and make up the difference on the back end. So I completely agree, Donkey Kong. That seems like a completely feasible way forward. My only issue is I don't know that we get the impact defensive players outside of round one. I mean, it's entirely possible. So, okay, so like here, this would be to gonna do something. I'm gonna go against type again, right? So here we are at pick 50, and I'm gonna pick Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. Why? Rodriguez's strengths are his versatility, exceptional playmaking instincts, and physicality, which he brings to every level of the defense. So 6'1", 230, pretty good speed, pretty good stats, 9.61 RAS. And this is the guy that is going to play next to, oh my God, Jack Campbell. And so we're completely off the board here, right? We're completely against type. We haven't taken a tackle. We have not taken an edge rusher, right? So I can understand why people would be like, this is stupid. You're stupid. I don't like this, what you're doing. Okay, so here I'm gonna take this kid from Arizona State, 5'10", 187. Abney's strength include tight coverage, strong insights, and then highlighted his elite man-to-man ability and tackling. So that is the kind of thing that the Detroit Lions, I think, would absolutely love. So what I think is, if you have Brian Branch at safety, Abney across from Reed as maybe your starters on outside corner, and maybe you convert Terrion Arnold to safety, and you give him an opportunity to be that center fielder. That's a reach for sure. But like, to me, this draft would be about the Detroit Lions saying, we have an efficient passing game. We have Penei Sewell at the left tackle. I am not a believer in Larry Borom whatsoever. Okay. But they clearly think that Larry Borom can come in and be like a starting level presence on the offensive line. Okay, so there's a couple of guys that I'm checking for here. And so now, so I am certainly going against type. So I can understand why people would not be a fan of what I am doing here. The only thing I can say to that is, oh, he went at 98. The only thing I can say to that is that Brad Holmes has never seemed to do anything that people expected him to do. So here, I'm going to take a look at this kid, Markel Bell, 6'9", 346, 36 and 3/8-inch arms. He was a full-time starting left tackle for Miami in 2025, but I think that this guy, I think that if you put him at right tackle, this guy just seems like an absolute beast. I think Larry can help their first round rookie OT. I agree with that. I think that would make a lot of sense. So now I'm going to take this absolute planet of a human being and Markel Bell. First of all, I also believe that Giovanni Manu will not be on the team week 1. That's something I feel pretty confident about. Okay, so who have we picked? We have picked Emmanuel McNeill-Warham, Jacob Rodriguez, Keith Abney, and Markel Bell. So 2 secondary players and a linebacker. Now I think that it's time to draft someone for the defensive line, and I think that this guy is Zane Durant. Nice RAS score, young, 6'2", 290. Disruptive interior defensive lineman. Let's see. Primary strength lies in explosive first step and ability to penetrate backfields, though his size occasionally presents challenges against double teams in the run game. So to me, this is Aleem McNeil's backup. This is the guy that we all hoped that Trey Wingo would become. Not Trey Wingo. Trey Wingo was an announcer for ESPN, or was. This is the guy, what's his name? Marcus Wingo? Cannot remember. He's a defensive tackle, but he's been hurt. He tore his ACL last year. I could look him up. I don't know that he's on the offense. So now here we go. We have Trayvon Allen or Kaytron Allen again here. Caden Curry's on the board. Got some running backs. So now I'm going to take Marlon Klein from Michigan to be like Sam Laporta Jr. You know, and maybe this is the Shane Zylstra replacement. I wouldn't be surprised if we kept 4 or maybe even 5 tight ends on the roster this year for Petzing's new look. Ooh, I'm going to take. Oh, I really want to take Michael. I don't think they're in line for a wide receiver. I'll take this kid Ott from. He was at USC and then transferred to Oklahoma for a year, and he had a down year, which is why his value is tanked. But I'm asking him to be running back 3. I don't know if that's crazy. One other thing that I wish that Brad did with his late round picks is trade them or upgrade them for future picks. So like if I have a 6th round pick and I called up Buffalo and I said, hey, I'll give you my 6th round pick this year for your 5th rounder next year. Like I really wish that he would do that. So now I'm just taking guys to kind of fill out the roster, but like the point of this draft is I don't think I've ever understood the direction that Brad Holmes really wants to go. And sometimes I just need to do things that don't seem like they make any sense logically whatsoever in order to say, is this the box that Brad Holmes is trying to exist in? All right, so this draft, let's look at it. We traded down. We picked up Emmanuel McNeill-Warren. We're going to move Brian Branch to nickel. We take Jacob Rodriguez. We're going to put him next to Jack Campbell, and we're going to have Jacob Rodriguez cause as much havoc from the will linebacker position as we can. Keith Abney is going to be our new starting outside corner. Let's just say that Terrion Arnold's like weird kidnapping situation blows up in his face. Let me just say one second. If he is not guilty in this situation at all, it's a miracle on par with like Jesus feeding the hungry. I mean, like, are you telling me that his house gets robbed and then like 5 or 6 people that he knows goes and they lure the people they think robbed him to an apartment complex, kidnap 2 of them, beat them up, and rob them, and then they don't give the money back to Terrion Arnold? That would be so crazy random that they would do that, quote unquote, on his behalf. He is completely unaware of it and profits from it not at all. That would be it is shocking to me that he has not been implicated in this situation at all. So like this pick is the Lions internally know that there's some shit going on there and that he's probably not going to be on the team. So Markel Bell's our new right tackle, or maybe he's the new Dan Skipper. Zane Durant is a 3-tech backup. Marlon Klein's our new tight end 3. Jaden is our new running back 3. Nate Borkirker is another guy for the tight end room. And then we have linebacker Jack Kelly, who is going to be probably just a special teamer. So we'll do one more and maybe a little bit more in line with what the Lions need here, okay? Wow, Minnesota traded up for Love. Tampa Bay traded up for Sonny Styles. I've heard a rumor that like execs feel like there's going to be a ton of trades in this particular draft, which I would love because I find this class to be super underwhelming. Okay, so we've got the Bengals want to trade back up, so they're probably targeting like Spencer Fano or Vega Ione, and they want our 1, 4, and 5 for their second round pick and a 1 next year, which could be an awesome pick, or maybe not very good at all. So here's another version of the same thing. We trade back to round 2. We get the Vikings first round pick in 2027, which is supposed to be loaded. Or we could trade back 5 picks and pick up a third rounder. Now I have to imagine that Donkey Kong is probably a fan of the last option. Trade back a couple of spots, pick up a third round pick, right? So that solves a lot of our problems. I am super tempted by the first round pick in next year's class. Like that class is loaded. And I'm going to start floating this idea right now. Once the Lions sign the 23 class, even if it is 3 or all 4 guys from that class, that's it on the cap space. You're fucked as far as like cap flexibility is concerned. So there's only 2 options then. You start pushing the money out, and the Lions are like 4th in the NFL in potential money that they can push out already. And if you add another draft class on top of that, it's insane. Or you get a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract and you try and make it work. So if you do that, so let's take a look. So like let's say at pick 41, there's a chance that we could get Max Ahanacher from Arizona State. And then if Cincinnati was terrible or finished like 4th in their division next year, which seems tough when you're in a division with Cleveland, that we could have 2 mid first round picks, 1 mid and 1 late first round pick, 2 late first round picks. But we would have 2 picks in the same year. And then that still would mean that you would have 4 first round picks. You would be able to trade up for probably like the second or the third quarterback off the board in 2027. So if Arch Manning is off the board, you're looking at guys like Dante Moore, Julian Sayin, Lenoris Sellers, guys like that. Of those guys, I think I would want Dante Moore the most, but maybe it's Sayin from Ohio State. I mean, there's a world where that exists, right? Like Jared Goff is 31, 32 years old right now. And that's not crazy. And he's still performing at a pretty good level. But like, is the level that he's performing at, like, he had a very good year this last year. Like, touchdown to interception ratio was good, yards were good. You know, and he did take all those sacks or whatever, like 2 sacks. It got sacked on average like 2 times a game. And they were 9-8, but he had a good year as a quarterback. So I mean, like, is the money saved on Jared Goff potentially enough to make up for the inefficiencies of a rookie contract quarterback? To me, that is the next phase of the Detroit Lions roster, is that you're going to have to move on from Jared Goff and try and find somebody that is near the level that he is. And like, I don't give a shit if they trade the whole goddamn thing for you know, a Dante Moore or a Julian Sayin or the whoever it comes up out of the college quarterback rankings next year. Like, you have to put your team in the position to be able to continue to grow. And like, the Lions have maxed out that flexibility with 3 solid draft classes in a row, 21 through 23. So I don't know what to do. I am going to trade back. I will probably chicken out and take this Chargers trade. But like, the Cincinnati trade, I'm going to do the Cincinnati trade just for science. We'll do one more where I'm. Yeah, okay. So we're on the same page. Blake Miller just went off the board. Do not go, Max. Max just went. God damn it. Okay, maybe this isn't so bad. So we have our choice of pass rushers here. We can take Zion Young or Malachi Lawrence. I know. Why can't we take risks and have good things happen? Okay, so let's take a look at Zion Young. It's kind of a surprise that he's here at 41. I've seen him go in the first round. Evaluators note combination of length, power, and motor as strengths that help him win one-on-one matchups, though occasional penalties and consistency against top offensive tackles have been areas of scrutiny. And he's probably going to have to play against some top ones because they're going to match Aiden Hutchinson up against the weaker of the 2 tackles. Known for his explosive first step and ability to win with violence at the point of attack, he has proven to be a reliable pass rusher over 39 games. He enters the draft as a highly decorated prospect with a total of 20 sacks. 6'4", 250, 40-inch vertical. Wow, that's pretty good. So, like, I think that Zion Young's probably the guy that fits the best with, like, the Lions' philosophy. But Malachi Lawrence has the higher upside. I'm going to take Zion Young. And we're going to get another pick here in a couple of picks. That makes sense. Idiot. Yeah. Gabe Yakus. Here he is. Okay. Eli Stowers. Pass. Oh, we have D'Angelo Ponce. Interesting. Jennings Dunker could be a right tackle. I know a lot of people really like the mullet. I don't like him very much. Went to Iowa, so they probably love him. Dunker is a powerful run blocker with a reputation as a physical finisher who excels at generating movement at the point of attack. While his functional strength is considered elite, he occasionally faces challenges with lateral mobility when matched against explosive edge speed. So in the NFC North, I would say Chicago does not have an explosive edge rusher. Green Bay will have Micah Parsons back at some point. Let's see how explosive he is after his ACL. And then the Vikings have that kid from Alabama, Dallas Turner, but they're talking about trading away their other great pass rusher, Grenard. So I don't know that he'll be around. So maybe this is the time. Maybe the North is in a position where like Jennings Dunker isn't going to play against an elite speed rusher off the edge twice a year. All right, we'll take Dunker here. And we don't pick again for like 2 rounds. So we walked away from we traded down, we picked up a 27-1, and we took Zion Young and Jennings Dunker. So how do we feel about that? So we've inverted the order that we were going to take these two positions, right? We went edge first. And I think that we got kind of lucky that Zion was on the board at 41, considering I've seen him be taking it up as high as like 30. So I think that we got lucky. This year is round 1 OT or bust. So you seem very locked into that. You seem very locked into that outcome, Donkey Kong. So we are going to be doing our live draft show. I hope that you stop by around the time the Lions are on the board, and we will bite our fingernails together to see how the board fell and whether or not the Lions actually go OT or bust, like in real life. Okay, so here we are. We're on the board at 128. This is the pick that we got in the David Montgomery trade. So, oh man, that would be interesting. Not a ton of prospects I like here. I'll tell you what I want to do, and that's to draft Drew Aller from Penn State. Like, I think this is the kind of player that, like, where is the show being held for the draft? So we're going to be at Mike's house physically. We're going to be on this channel on YouTube. Where is the show being held for the draft? Do you mean like our show, or do you mean like what's the NFL going to do? We will be at Mike's house physically, and then we will be streaming on this show starting just before the draft actually kicks off. This year it's going to be nice because the NFL is shaving 2 minutes off of every team's first round pick. So instead of 10 minutes between each pick, we're going 8 minutes between each pick, which means we should be done by like 10:45 or 11 o'clock at night, which will be nice because I need to get me some beauty sleep. Okay. So the beard can only take me so far. I got to get some rest. So if you guys want to just tune in to this like normal on, what is it, the 23rd of April? Oh, we're getting so close. It would be cool. So that's a Thursday night, which is, I hate the fact that they moved it to Thursday night. Like, you can't do rounds 1 and round 2 on Friday and then Saturday and Sunday like you used to. I mean, that was such a better format. But they want the draft on, they want more of the draft during the week. I don't know why. Okay, so I really want to take Aller here because I think he's like the prototypical NFL quarterback. 6'5", 230, big hands, almost 10-inch hands. I think that he has elite arm talent, prototypical size, and he has some mobility. Evaluators have noted a need for more consistent instinctual play and better accuracy on deep passes when under pressure. Well, here's the thing. The Detroit Lions offense does not call for you to throw deep passes under pressure. It requires you to be able to look at the middle of the field and get through your reads. And so I just think that like Drew Aller, if he sat behind Jared Goff for a year or even 2 years before and got all of the preseason reps and like all of the stuff that we're not going to risk Jared Goff on, that would be an opportunity for him to learn and like bring in bring in a dude that's going to help fix his mechanics. I mean, like, and just work with him constantly on it. Why wouldn't you do that? I'm just going to. All right, we've already gone edge and tackle. Don't need a wide receiver. Stack and shed strength and a heavy-handed approach. All right, I'll take this kid for the defensive line. 6'4", 313. Maybe Tyleek's not up to it. Maybe he's a backup for Tyleek. I really wanted to draft Drew Aller there. I think that he's got the chops, as it were, to if he is there at 181, I will be drafting him. Just FYI, so don't yell at me. I'm telling you ahead of time. There he goes to the fucking Rams. God damn it. I hate the Rams. This is easy for me. I'm taking, oh God, Tim Keenan. No, I'm taking this kid, Zune. This is a left tackle at Texas Tech who's converting to center. And so I want, if there's something that the Detroit Lions should figure out, is that, like, you sign Cade Mays to a reasonable free agency contract. He's your penciled in starter at center. I hope that the kid does a great job in his second contract era of the in the NFL. However, I would be looking at, how do I find the next guy? And there's several players in this class. Brian Parker from Duke, Trey Zune from Texas A&M, even Spencer Fano from Utah are guys that can play both tackle and center. And that is useful. That is interesting to me. When you're smart enough to play center and you're big enough and athletic enough to play tackle, that kind of versatility. So yeah, so I would be making room for Trey Zune on the Lions roster. I'm going to take Jason Kennedy here as a slot corner. So in this draft, we didn't take Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, so we have Roger McCreary as our penciled in nickel. And then we also have Christian Izien, who we signed from Tampa Bay, who can play safety and nickel. Taking Caden Curry again, I don't care. And the Lions need to find a way to generate pass rush. And if they can't generate faster pass rush from the line, they need to be able to buy themselves the time on the back end. I'm taking Jimmy Rolder here, not only because he went to Michigan, but because I think that he can compete for will linebacker role. He'll be a good special teamer. So that was our draft. We'll do one more. I'll try and stay a little bit more on point. I seem to be very interested. All right, so in this draft, we traded from 17 down to 41. And we picked up Cincinnati's first-round pick in 2027. We picked up Jennings Dunker to play right tackle at 50. Then we have defensive line depth, offensive line depth, nickel depth, situational pass rusher, and a special teamer that can compete for a starting will linebacker job, perhaps, or at least just be solid depth at will linebacker. So I think that this worked out. I think that this might be close to the best scenario when the Lions were decide to trade out of the first round entirely and pick up like a 1 in a future year. So we'll do one more. Oops. There we go. The other problem I have, see if you can trade back and take a tackle, try hard. Okay, I will. Okay, I'll do that for you. You've been very patient. Okay, so let's see. Am I given some options here? 22 and 86, 30 and 43. Okay, so I will do the Clipper, or not the Clippers, the Chargers deal. I'm going to trade back 5 spots, and 2 of the tackles went. And I'm going to draft Blake Miller. This seems to be the kid that everybody is saying is just he's got a ton of college experience. He can slide right in at right tackle. Got a mean streak. We picked up a 3rd round pick. We're doing it. I really want to trade in Stukes. That's a bummer. Okay, so we got Jacob Rodriguez again. We got Yakus on the board. Pons is on the board. Rutledge is on the board. Dominique Orange is the guy that I think this guy's got an interesting nickname. They call him Big Citrus because of his last name being Orange. I think that look at all the words. Let's see. Highlight power, gap control, and positional versatility inside the traditional counting stats may understate his impact in Iowa State's front. 6'2", 322, 33-inch arms, so not very big. Big hands. I really want to take Rodriguez. I'm going to take Yakus. This guy's name is Jeremy. I know it's Jeremy. I know that his name is pronounced Jeremy, but it's spelled Germie. Jeremy. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Fucking Vikings always ruining shit. Okay. Who did we take? We took Miller and Yakus. I like this Chandler Rivers kid. Or should we take the much higher rated Kyle Lewis? So like this kid might as well be a safety. 6 foot 220, 4.5 speed. Lewis is widely recognized for his versatility, having demonstrated the ability to impact games as a pass rusher and a reliable coverage defender with a knack for forcing turnovers. His primary strengths or prospect are his explosive closing speed and elite production, having amassed 20 career tackles for loss. It is hard. I get it. That all sounds great. And he is 20 pounds lighter than what I would consider to be light for the position. I mean, can this guy add, I don't know what his frame looks like, but like, can this guy add 10 pounds and not lose the speed and explosiveness? Because then I'm in. All right. Okay. We'll take the missile Kyle Lewis over here and hope that he can put on 10 pounds at some point. Okay, so what did we do? We traded down. We got the guy that we'd probably take at 17 anyways, if you listen to Pride of Detroit. And then we ended up picking up a guy that I don't think will be there at 50 in Gabe Yakus. So I think that we got lucky twice. And then we picked up a potential. Okay, so this is interesting. All 3 of these players at the top here, I think, fill a role for the Detroit Lions. So Jonah Coleman, you want to bring this kid in, and then Pacheco's gone after this year, and then this kid is your number 2 back. Fine. 5'8", 220. So that's big. He's thick. 22 reps on the bench at that size is really solid. Strengths include power, vision, reliable 3-down skill set with the ability to be an asset in both the running and passing games. So you can bring this kid in and not have people be like, oh, they're going to run it because he's not a passing threat. Like we know Jahmyr Gibbs is a passing threat, right? So Demetrius Crownover is an interesting tackle prospect, 6'7", 319, 35-inch arms. Okay, you have me interested. Strengths include reach and ability to neutralize speed rushers. All right. Though he continues to refine his pad level to maintain better leverage in the run game. So I believe that he anchored the right side of the Aggies offensive line in 2025. So this would be somebody that if the Lions don't go tackle right away, you want the running back. Okay. So if the Lions don't go tackle first or second round, like this would be somebody that they might be a trade up target for, depending on where they think that he could go. So, okay. So we'll take Jonah Coleman, Big Ten running back. We're getting a discount on him. 20 picks. That's good. Got another pick coming up. Don't go, Sam Roush. Don't go. Okay, we're taking Sam Roush. So now we got to wait for a minute. If Drew Aller's there, I'm going to take Drew Aller this time. He's gone. Cleveland took him. Fuck you, Cleveland. Always taking the players that I want and ruining them in your stupid city. Factory of sadness. Trey Zune, I've indicated that I like this kind of player. I'm going to mix it up a little bit here. I'm going to take Rayshon Benny from Michigan. Yeah, so this is a guy that I think will play 4I for us. Good against the run, probably like an early downs player. Good depth, right down the street. I mean, not right down the street. I mean, there is a little bit of distance between Ann Arbor and Detroit, but Donkey Kong is happy. It's fulfilled my dreams for today. I can go to work happy knowing that I've made his day better. I'm going to take Raritan here just to add to the tight end room. So I think we've already taken, we took Roush, right? Yeah, so Roush and Raritan together, I think, so if you have Brock Wright's under contract for this upcoming season, very clearly Sam Laporta is. So if you have a tight end room of Laporta, Wright, Roush, Raritan, that's a lot of R's. I guess Wright's technically a W. But I think that's a really good foundation for a tight end room that lets you do basically whatever you want. If Kazmarek is still on the board, I would take him. Just looking really quickly to see if he's doesn't look like it. All right. This is a pretty easy pick for me. I want this kid, Michael Taff from Texas. 23, 6 foot 190. Is he from Michigan originally? I don't remember. Regarded as a high IQ defender with elite instincts and a relentless competitive streak. Non-scholarship player to a top-tier safety prospect. That's always interesting. His primary strengths include tackling, reliability, and positional flexibility. Often noted more for his grit and leadership than raw physical tools. Okay, all right. Grit. Welcome to Detroit. I think this is our last pick. Fabechi Naiwu. I'm getting a phone call. That's interesting. I don't know really people who call me. We took Jonah Coleman in this draft, right? Yeah. I can't come and get to the phone right now. I'm doing my show. I'm going to take this guy, this interior offensive lineman from Indiana or Oklahoma. Oh, we did have one more pick. I'm going to take this defensive lineman from Navy again. Look, I think the thing that the Lions need to do with like their as many of their draft picks as they can is like I think they need to find solid contributors, and I don't mean contributors like starters. I mean contributors like this guy's the third guy at his position group that can stick on the roster because they're cost controlled for 4 years, and it eliminates Brad's need to go out and sign multiple unrestricted free agents at veteran minimums that fuck up our compensatory pick formulas. So, I mean, what I would like to see is Brad use some of the later round picks to be like, can we find the third or fourth guy in this room and like, kind of knock that out of the park so I don't have to go out and spend money in free agency and hopefully pick up some more picks. So we traded down 5 spots. We took Blake Miller. He's our new right tackle. We took Gabe Yakas in the second. Kyle Lewis, we're going to pencil in as our quote weak side weapon next to Jack Campbell. Jonah Coleman's running back 3, probably running back 2 after this year. Sam Roush, you're going to be tight end 3, probably replace Wright as tight end 2 after this year. Rayshon Benny, your interior defensive lineman depth. Raridan, you are additional versatility depth in the tight end room. Michael Taff, you are we're going to see how you work out. The Lions currently have 8 safeties on their roster, which is not insane because we're ballooning the roster up to 90 players. But they had last year at this time, they had 8 linebackers on the roster, and this year they have 8 safeties on the roster. So I think that is a signal that they intend to go more nickel than they do base defense. So to me, they are going to take, is it going to be Jack and Barnes on, in the nickel, and you're going to move Barnes to Will? Or do you draft a Will and you take Barnes off the field unless you're in a base look? So then Taft competes with those guys. This guy, Fabechi Nawayu, I think would be somebody that I think I would be drafting basically to see if he could make the roster. And then Landon Robinson, I would be like, can you knock somebody that's currently on the roster out of their, defensive lineman position? Because the Lions currently are quite light on interior defensive linemen. We've lost a lot, especially at the nose tackle position. Didn't re-sign DJ Reader. Roy Lopez went back to Arizona. So the only real quote unquote 2-gapping nose tackle on the roster is Tyleik Williams, and we don't even really know that he can hold up for a whole year doing that. So like I think that there's some debate as to whether or not the Lions should continue to invest in interior defensive line. Like Aleem McNeil needs to look good. Coming back this year, 1 full year healthy from his ACL. He needs to produce next to Aiden Hutchinson. And then Tyleik needs to look like an NFL starter, and we don't know who the other guy is across from Aiden quite yet. So Marcus Davenport's not on the roster. They signed DJ Wanham to be that kind of Marcus Davenport. Like he's the next version of Marcus Davenport, right? Like a journeyman, 6'5", 270 edge setter who's there primarily to like stop the run and like crush the pocket, right? So I think that to me, and I know this is going to sound really obvious, like the players that fit the best with what Detroit wants to do are all up in the first half of the draft. So, like, if you wanted like the edge, like power player next to Aiden Hutchinson, like that's Ruben Bain. Like, if Ruben Bain makes it past 10, the Lions should look to trade up for Ruben Bain, in my opinion. So, like, I think that they're like Arvell Reese would be somebody that I think would solve two problems for the Lions. You could play him at like will linebacker, like as far as that spot, but then like he is an excellent edge setter, and like I've heard comparisons to like Dante Hightower and like how he could be used in the NFL. Like I would love a Dante Hightower in our linebacking core next to Jack Campbell. So like the other problem I have is that like without somebody like a DJ Reader to take up multiple blockers on the interior line, is Jack Campbell's effective efficiency going to be reduced because now you don't have somebody eating up another guy in front of him that lets him pick which gap he wants to fill. So, I mean, like, I think that there's going to be some interesting changes to the Detroit Lions defense this year. And, like, I think that the biggest improvement they can make is adding impact players to the defense. Yeah, me too, Donkey Kong. I'm going to end it right here, too. Thanks for hanging out. I really appreciated it. So that's the show for today. Coming up I'll be here next week, Friday. And then in 10 days, Monday the 20th, we're going to do our multi-man mock show. 2 rounds, 7 guys. Should be a lot of fun. Check it out if you guys get an opportunity. Stay safe. Stay warm. I'll talk to you next time. Bye. We're all good, Detroit fan, man. Glad that you checked in. Now I got to take off. I'll see ya.